In Australia, I mean, as everyone here would know, there is a huge history with Indigenous people. And it's not a pretty history. They were slaughtered, they were killed, they were annihilated. They were not respected. You know, their babies were taken from them and then possibly sent to other homes because the government didn't feel that parents would take care of them, and all kinds of horrid things. These events leave a scar on the land. Now, this particular people have been here for tens of thousands of years. They come from the stars. That's where their origins are. That's what their stories are about. And they connect and they feel and they love this planet so deeply that when they bleed, the planet bleeds. When the planet bleeds, they bleed. And so when we try to do individual work on ourselves, as I have discovered walking as much as I have seen of this land, we also have to consider this much larger factor. Now, I've gone to sacred sites pretty much in, I would say, for most of the continents. There's still a couple of things a couple of continents I haven't explored yet, but I will, and I'm sure different challenges will arise. But here, it seems to me that the first step to personal healing is earth healing. Without doing that, anything that you're doing on yourself, anything that you're doing in your personal space, it's going to be like you fighting against the current. You know, in Tasmania, I did this workshop on land working because that is where so much of the Earth's root chakra energy is. That's home for everybody in a certain way. I'm sure there are other places on Earth as well. But it felt like working with the energy of the land allowed people to begin to see different ways of working with themselves. And so, if you're doing work in Australia, start from down below. It's appropriate. Alright, so let's begin. Now, when dealing with this particular land, we've talked about how working and clearing and honoring the energy and spirit of the place that we sit on is really, really important before we do anything here. Just owing to the nature of Australia and what has happened, basically. And that provides us a space where we can actually start processing. Because if the space ain't right, if the space in itself has its own issues to deal with, you're not going to have the right kind of container that you need to actually do work on you. See what I mean? It's very logical. But on yourself, the question is, well, alright, I've done some work, I've got a space, I've shared things, and now I'm ready to actually get on with it. Now, when we look at personal trauma, having created a space or a vessel, and like I said, it can be anywhere, as long as you feel safe and grounded there, how do you begin to actually look at it in yourself? Now, there are different approaches to this. Psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, they're going to start, for example, they may start with talk therapy, they may go to different layers, try to unpack layers of the subconscious, and that's a viable method. People have been healed through that. That's perfectly fine. But from the spiritualist perspective, I would say we start at, again, ground zero. Now, this is not, I think for everyone in this room, this is not your first lifetime. You've been around for a long time. And you carry codes of trauma that have been inherited through these lifetimes. Using things like whether it's a past life regression or whether it's astrology, depends on who you go to. You can use different ways to actually understand and access what had happened before. But that doesn't need to be a main focus. That doesn't have to be the only way that you begin to understand why you've manifested a certain type of trauma and how you can clear it. If you are looking into past lives, understand it as a tool, but don't jump too far into it. That's what some people do. They keep living in the past and they forget that, okay, everything happened before, but here's where we are now. But I would say from the spiritualist perspective, whether you want to use it in conjunction with other more conventional forms of therapy and whatnot, start with the baseline. What does your soul remember? So that's what we're going to be doing next. We're going to be getting into an exercise where, and this will be fairly intense, so again, if you don't want to participate, you don't have to, just sit and reflect, that's fine. We're going to be doing an exercise where we basically allow the soul to begin to remember, to allow that information to come in to the degree that is required.